First, we need to determine whether the body is dead or alive. Then, we need to extract as much information as possible about the body. After that, we need to determine the time of death. Lastly, we will analyze the cause and circumstances of death. Was it an accident, self-inflicted, or murder? At the end of the video, I will give you a body to analyze, and I want you to try to fill out its autopsy report. I want you to give a rough idea of how long ago the person died, the victim's approximate age, the cause of death, and whether it was a murder or not. Maybe it was a murder made to look like an accident. You'll have to determine that. Forensic medicine was a topic we studied years ago during my bachelor's degree, so I have some knowledge of it that I will share with you today. I will not show any real-life pictures for obvious reasons, but I will ensure you understand everything. Now, let's take a closer look at the body. Making sure a person is actually dead is a little harder than you might think. One trick often used in movies is holding a mirror in front of the nose or mouth to see if it fogs. But this cannot be fully trusted, because the person might not fog the mirror while alive, or the mirror might fog even if the person is dead. This can happen if pressure is put on the chest, resulting in air leaving the mouth. Similarly, pushing a feather into the nose to observe a reaction is unreliable, as there might be no reaction even if the person is alive. In general, these are the signs of a dead body: lack of movement and reaction, no blood flow or breathing, paleness, limp body parts until the body stiffens, loose pupils with no reaction to light. If you see all of these signs on a body, it is safe to assume the person is dead. These tests alone cannot be fully trusted. Therefore, it is best to test multiple things for higher accuracy. Now let's say there is no movement, no blood flow, the skin is pale, body parts are limp, and the pupils are non-reactive. Like in our next body. If all that remains are the bones of the deceased, there are still reliable ways to guess their sex from the bone structure. For example, larger skull size, wider shoulders, or most importantly, differences in the pelvic bone can provide clues, as female and male pelvic bones are distinctly different. Female pelvic bones have evolved to be wider for childbirth. Examining the teeth can help understand the age of the body as long as the person is under about 25 years old, based on this chart. You can refer to this picture when examining the body at the end of the video. Genetics and race have a huge effect on what I am about to say, but on average, we can say that around 35 to 45 years old, the hair on the sides of the head will start to turn white, and some wrinkles will form on the outer sides of the eyes. As the person ages, more wrinkles will appear, extending to the neck. From 45 to 50, hair will start to grow from the inside of the ears, and from 50 to 55, skin will start to lose flexibility. Eventually, gray circles often appear around the cornea, called arcus senilis, which usually indicates the body is over 60. Looking at the body here, it looks like we are dealing with a male, most likely between 25 and 35. But how long has it been since he died? Normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, which slowly reaches ambient temperature after death. This means the temperature increases or decreases depending on the environment. The body usually maintains this temperature for about an hour after death before cooling. Body temperature alone is an inaccurate way to determine the time of death, but combined with other factors, it can provide a good estimate. Several things affect the rate at which a body loses temperature: body weight, body position, clothing, age, body fat percentage, hydration level, environmental temperature, wind, rain, and humidity, pre-existing illnesses, and cause of death. That being said, in a normal situation, the body loses approximately 0.8 degrees Celsius per hour for the first 12 hours and approximately 0.4 degrees Celsius per hour after that. This can significantly narrow down the time of death. How long has it been since the body died if its temperature is 21 degrees Celsius when found? If the body temperature is 21 degrees, it means the person has been dead for approximately 29 hours. The body has lost 16 degrees since death. For the first 12 hours, the body loses 0.8 degrees each hour, a total loss of 9.6 degrees. This leaves 6.4 degrees of the 16 degrees loss. After the first 12 hours, the body loses 0.4 degrees each hour, requiring 16 more hours to account for the remaining 6.4 degrees Celsius loss. Adding these to the initial 12 hours, plus 1 hour for the delay before temperature loss begins, totals 29 hours. Just keep in mind how much different factors can affect this. For example, if the body is naked in a really cold place or in water, it loses temperature much faster. If the person dies while having a fever, their body temperature was higher than normal. If the person has a high body fat percentage, it loses temperature slower. As the body loses temperature, the next thing that happens is after death, the body becomes stiff in the position it was left. Stiffness starts around 2 to 7 hours after death, fully develops throughout the body around 12 hours after death, and then takes another 12 to 24 hours to disappear. It begins in smaller muscles, such as the fingers and facial muscles, then progresses to larger muscles, like the biceps, and disappears in the same order, with the smaller muscles first and larger muscles afterward. If stiff muscles are forcefully moved before the first 12 hours, the stiffness may recur in that muscle, but less severely. If moved after 12 hours, it usually does not recur. So let's say a knife is found in a deceased person's hand, but unlike the rest of the body, the fingers are not stiff. This suggests the knife may have been placed there at least 12 hours post-mortem, resulting in the muscles not stiffening again. Now let's say this is a body you found and it's still stiff. This means it most likely hasn't been more than a day and a half since the person died. If you move a limb and it stiffens again, then it probably hasn't been more than 12 hours. If only the small muscles are stiff, it's in the beginning stages of rigor mortis, so it should not be less than about 2 hours. On the other hand, if the small muscles are not stiff, while the larger ones are, then rigor mortis is nearing completion, so it should be about a day since death. Around the same time the stiffness begins, something else also starts to happen. After death, because of gravity, the blood will move to the parts of the body closest to the ground. For example, if the body is lying on its back, it will move to the back side of the body. If it is held standing up, it moves to the lower parts of the arms and legs, causing something that looks like bruising to appear on the skin, a pinkish purple color. As a result, the upper side of the body will be paler than the lower side. Important note, these blood pools do not appear on the parts of the body bearing the body's weight. For example, if the body is lying on its back, the weight is distributed on those parts, so they do not become purple. The color of the blood pools is not always the same. If they are a bright red wine color, it can be due to cyanide poisoning or hypothermia. If the color is bright rose red, it can be due to carbon monoxide poisoning. If the color is chocolate-like, it can be due to potassium chlorate poisoning. The time at which blood pooling begins varies, but normally it starts around 2 hours after death and fully develops after 8 to 12 hours. Therefore, if it is not fully developed, it has likely been less than 12 hours since death. It can move to different parts of the body up to 18 hours after death. Thus, sometimes we can determine if the body was moved after death based on the blood pooling. For example, if someone dies lying on their back and blood pools develop there, and then 10 hours later they are moved to lie on their face, blood pools may be seen on both their back and their front. After the body goes through all of these, it is ready for the next stage. The first signs of decomposition appears on the lower right part of the stomach, near the appendix, then the lower left side, and finally the entire stomach and chest. These signs are green. In moderate weather, this begins 36 to 48 hours after death. In hot weather, it can start within a few hours, and in cold weather, it may not occur for months. At 0 degrees Celsius, decomposition almost stops. After decomposition starts, veins will appear dark red. It starts from the neck, then the shoulders, sides, and the rest of the body. Afterward, blisters filled with liquid or gas will appear, leading to a slippage of the upper skin layer. Following gas buildup, the body starts to swell. This happens around 2.5 to 3 days after death. Afterward, fluids will ooze from every orifice. During decomposition, various bugs will gather. Maggots will grow from the eyes, lips, other openings, and open wounds. These maggots will help decompose the body. Between 1 and 1.5 years after death, only bones and ligaments will remain. Then around 3 years after death, only bones will remain. Things like weather and the body's environment greatly affect the speed of decomposition. For example, a warm grassy field increases the speed, but a dry place makes it slower, even if it is hot. If the body is buried in the ground or thrown in water, it will take longer to decompose. If a body part is detached, it decomposes slower, and having infections or dying from suffocation increases the speed. In hot, dry places, the dead body will dry quickly, which will make the skin feel more leathery. This drying slows decomposition, meaning it will not happen at a normal rate, and the body may remain the same for years. All of these combined can give us a very rough idea of when the body died. Now let's try to understand how it died. There are some signs to determine if a person has been suffocated. For example, the face, fingers, and toes may turn purple. Swelling may occur on the face and other parts of the body. Small veins may burst, resulting in underskin bleeding, which can be found on the face. If a person dies from being smothered, there will be bruises and small cuts inside the mouth from the lips being pushed against the teeth, and sometimes bruises and scratch marks on the skin. If the face is pushed into a pillow, scratches and bruises may be found on the back of the head. Pallor around the mouth and nose may also be present. However, if a soft object such as a pillow is used, there might be no signs. If suffocation is caused by a strangulation, scratch marks and bruising might appear on the neck or even above the chest. As the strangulation continues, other signs might occur, such as a blue face and swelling and bleeding in the eyes. If a rope is used, it can leave a mark around the neck, circling the middle. The narrower the tool, the deeper the mark. If suffocation is the result of hanging, the rope mark, unlike the mark that the strangulation leaves, will lean upward around the back of the ears and will not go all around the neck. It will only be found on the front and sides of the neck. And unlike the strangulation mark, which is around the middle of the neck, the hanging mark will be higher on the neck, under the jaw. If there is a lot of pressure from the rope, the face will become pale, and the small veins will burst under the skin. If suffocation is a result of drowning, besides the obvious signs such as a wet face and often water-filled lungs, there will be other signs as well. If the body has been in water for a short time, there will be wrinkles on the fingers and toes, and goosebumps on the skin. If it has been in the water for longer, there will be some swelling, and the face will begin to change color. If it has been in the water for a very long time, the nails will fall off, and the skull will become visible. Keep in mind that if there are fish in the water, they will begin eating the face, starting with the ears, nose, lips, and other soft tissues. In water, decomposition typically takes about twice as long. However, determining the time of death of a drowned person by observing the body's state is extremely difficult and inaccurate because many factors affect it, such as water's temperature, the presence of fish, body size, and other factors. Here we have a body that shows all 3 degrees of burn. First degree burns, redness on the skin, but no damage to the deeper layers, and it does not cause blisters. Second degree burns affect more than 1 layer of skin and come with blisters. Third degree burns. The burn has affected the deeper layers of the skin, all the way to the fat tissues, or maybe even the muscles and bones. There is another burn mark on this body as well. When hot liquid is poured on the body, it burns most severely at the first contact point, and less severely as it moves across the skin. By analyzing the severity and the shape of the burn, you can get a good idea of how the burn happened. Keep in mind that a burn blister looks different from a decomposition blister. Burn blisters are often surrounded by red, inflamed skin and are filled with clear liquid. Decomposition blisters, however, may be filled with gas, and if filled with liquid, may be a different color than a burn blister. The surrounding skin also differs in color. There are several ways to determine if a person was burned alive or was already dead. For example, if alive, breathing in hot air and smoke would cause burns to the inside of the mouth, throat, and lungs. The next body presents a different situation. We know he was murdered, but we still don't know how or what tool was used. Many things affect the shape of a stab wound. The shape of the tool, the angle at which the object enters and exits the body, its sharpness, the material it is made of, and so on. For example, if a knife enters and exits a body at a 90 degrees angle, the wound will be smaller than the knife's thickness due to skin flexibility. However, if it exits at an angle, the wound will be larger. Moving the knife within the body creates a larger wound. Therefore, the size of the knife cannot always be determined from the wound size alone. Something that can help guess the tool used is if there are bruises around the wound. If there are, it means the object used wasn't very sharp and it crushed the skin a little before entering. If the object is sharp, it will enter easily, so there will be little to no bruising. However, a person can be stabbed with many different objects, and each leaves a different looking wound, as we see on this body. When attacked, a person might hold up their arms or legs to protect their head or stomach, leaving self-defense marks on the back of their arms or the outer sides of the legs. Similarly, if someone is attacked with a knife, they might hold their hands in the way or try to hold the knife, leaving marks that can help us understand what occurred. A very common mark is a cut between the thumb and index finger. Fresh blood from a healthy person is bright red, but as it dries, it becomes dark red, like a cherry. Fully dried blood in daylight will have a brownish color. Normally, blood will change color for 10 days after being spilled. The shape of a blood drop can also provide information. For example, a round blood drop on someone's hand indicates it hit at roughly a 90 degrees angle. An oval shape indicates a sharper angle, and a trailing drop indicates an even sharper angle. This can help determine if a blood drop landed on the body while it was still alive or after death. The next body, like this one, has probably also been killed, but in a different manner. It has been shot multiple times. The entry hole of a bullet looks different from the exit hole. The exit hole is either the same size or bigger than the bullet itself, and has a more irregular shape. In certain circumstances, you might see multiple entry holes on a body with only one bullet being shot. This happens when the bullet passes through a limb and enters the body a second time. It might at first glance look like the person has been shot multiple times, but that is not the case. Based on the distance from which the person was shot, you might see some signs around the wound, such as bruises, redness, burn marks, and dark spots. If a gun is pressed against the body, besides the entry wound, you will see bruises and redness from the heat. If the distance is less than 15 centimeters, you might see burn marks around the entry wound, with the hair in that area singed, some dark spots from smoke, and small dark dots from gunpowder. From 15 to 30 centimeters, you might not see any smoke marks, but depending on the gun used, there is a chance you will still see signs of gunpowder, and rarely burn marks. From 30 to 60 centimeters or more, there are normally no signs besides the entry wound. However, if the person was shot from a distance close to the gun's maximum range, it might leave a larger than usual entry wound. Okay, I suppose now we can take a look at the last body we have. This is the autopsy report. I have filled out some parts of it, but you need to fill in the rest. So, good luck with that. Now I'll leave you alone with it so you can focus better. I'm sure someone has tried within the camera. So take care.